Hello, everyone. I'm talking with Scott Loker. He's the customer operations manager with Family Farms Group and has spent some time looking into, sort of the mindset that's needed to sort of wrap farmers' minds around the carbon markets and carbon credits and where we're headed. Scott, you had a great write-up, and I'm so delighted to get to talk to you today so that you can directly share what your insights are about that. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I got, carbon markets started hearing a lot of it last summer. Working some of our members here within the Family Farms Group started pursuing carbon credits, were being hit up by different companies, and started researching myself and started a project with one of our farms from North Dakota with a company, and learned in a hurry you had to have the right mindset to enter this arena. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of questions I had, no set standards to look at. So it started making me think and wanted to write something mainly for our group membership, but we posted it out there for the public on kind of the mindset to look at what you need to be ready for, prepared for, besides just going into no-till or changing practices in the operation at that point. So
Sure. So what is your advice? What is the best mindset to going into this?
probably the biggest things is patience. It's not going to be a quick payday, and flexibility as well. This is a new arena. A lot of pilot programs. There's a reason why they're called pilot programs with companies. Things are going to change. So you're going to have to be flexible and change with them as well. And like I said, patience is the big one. It's not going to be a quick payday. It could be a year and a half before a carbon credit is sold and you could see funds starting to come your way.
Right. So if a farmer wants to start looking at this now, where do they go?
That's $1 million question. There's a lot of different companies out there offering. Um, the internet is just flooded with different companies out there you could be looking at. And plus, they're starting to advertise. The biggest thing I would say is look into those different companies. Not every company is going to be a good fit for your farm, and not every acre is going to be a good fit on your farm for one company either. So you may be working with different companies depending upon what you're trying to do out there as well. And then start asking questions of these companies to get an understanding what's the benefit to your operation and how you can benefit from this as well.
So in addition to patience, then they need to be flexible enough and open enough to listen to all the different perspectives, is what you're saying?
Listen to all the different perspectives and get an understanding where the companies are coming from. Are these companies offering the carbon credits, as they call them, for their own internal benefits? Are they really selling the carbon credits in an open market? Or are they keeping it for future to become carbon neutral and giving, don't want to say credits, but paying farmers for access to the information to start the process with them at that point? To go through a complete, in my mind, to sell a real carbon credit, it's going to be a long process. You're going to have a baseline created. The buyers of these carbon credits want to see a change in your operation, a step change. So you're going to have a baseline. What changes to your practices are you making? How is the carbon credit determined? Is it done by the common method with the USDA? Are they pulling soil tests or something else? You're going to have to go through a verification process. The information that you're providing, the data you're providing, there's going to be a third party verifier to make sure all that information is correct so these buyers know what they're buying. It's like buying a pickup truck for your farm. You're going to ask questions. You need to make sure it is what it is before you buy it, and also how long is it going to be there for you for future benefit as well. So
Right. So data is critical here. And do
correct.
farmers at this point know what data they need, and how far back, should they go? Like, for example, if they want to participate in any carbon market now, do they have to have a comprehensive set of data that goes back, say, 5 years or more?
It does help to go back uh, quite a ways because these companies are looking for a practice change within your operation, um, or a true carbon market in my mind. So, for instance, is if you're a conventional tillage or even no-till, you got proof of what you're doing, then for a few years, this is what my practices have been. And then what's the change you're doing going forward? Let's say you incorporate cover crops. Well, they need to show data that you haven't had cover crops in the past. Now I'm starting to purchase cover crops. So as simple as invoices showing the cover crops, or kind of been tough to, for the farm I was working with to show a change from a reduced tillage and conventional tillage to a no-till system, how that worked going back 5 years. But luckily, we had a couple receipts to show the purchase of a new planter, no-till planter, and then the sale receipt of the chisel plow to coincide. So something like that is something the verifier was looking for to show the change in practice as well.
What other questions should farmers ask? Like, for example, how the company calculates the carbon. Is that a key question? Is that something that's nailed down right now anyway?
It's not really nailed down. There's a lot of different theories out there of how it is. There is the COMET methodology by the USDA, COMET Farm, which is a computer model program. There's some other modeling programs coming out, but that's just a theory. It's a model. Soil tests are being done now, but those can only be done by accredited soil labs. And it's a different soil test than what we normally pull for NP or K out there as well. So yes, you're going to have to ask the question, well, what method are they using? Is it a CAR method or a Vera methodology? So they know what's need to be provided for those carbon markets. Something else to be asking is, how's the baseline created? Am I getting paid for doing a absolute change in my operation, or is it a company that's just a simple, easy, click a few things? Yes, I'm doing no-till. Yes, I'm doing cover crops, and they're giving you a credit, as they call it, or a carbon credit, but is it a real true carbon credit you're selling? In my mind, probably not at that point. Data. What data do you have to provide for your operation? Proof of what you're doing there in the creation of this carbon credit. Another big one that I ran across different opinions out there is, who actually owns the carbon credit? Who owns the land? Is it the farmer that's farming it, or is it a landlord? Most likely it's a landlord. Think of it as a mineral right. So you're going to have contracts with the landlord to give you ownership of the carbon credit, or a sharing with the landowner at that point. Other questions to ask is verification processes. What do we have to provide? Is there an outside party, third party that's being involved with this as well? A big one I found that was interesting to start out with it is, people are saying, hey, we got carbon credits, we're offering carbon credits. Then you start asking, well, who's the buyer of the carbon at the backside of it? Several times I had crickets at that point. They're like, well, we're hoping to have some people available by that point. So make sure there is the backside available, or is it self-funded within the company that they're just doing to get something started with you? And how will you get paid? That's a big question too. Is it credits within the company, or will you actually get a check from the company or the third party that's actually buying the carbon credits at that point? What if you go through the process and there's no buyer? Then what? That's a key as well. You created the carbon credit, there's no buyer, they deteriorate over time in value, from what I've been finding out as well. It's not like wine where okay, we created this carbon credit, and 20 years from now, it's worth more than a new one. It will deteriorate over time, the value of it. So can you take that carbon credit and take it to an open market and try to sell it yourself? Granted, there'll be more work on your side. Um, Contracts, how flexible are the contracts? If you're not sure, seek legal advice before you sign any contracts at that point with companies. And probably the big one too is no, walk into it. What's the benefit to the company you're wanting to work with? Is it for their own internal benefits? Do they want to make money from the sale of the carbon as well? Or do they have a product or service that they're trying to sell to help sequester more carbon in the long run too? So a lot of questions that came to my mind as I was going through the process, learning, get my hands dirty in the process as well, that we had to try to figure out and open your eyes in a hurry, it seemed like.
Sure. You even advised that they might want to work with a couple different companies to get started. You think that's a good approach?
Maybe a good approach. Unfortunately, there's no set standard out there. You do this, and you're guaranteed money per se. Um, Seems like an awful lot of different pilot programs out there. So you may want to spread your risks out a little bit like you do seed corn. You just don't plant one hybrid across all of your acres. You spread it out. It may be the same type of situation here for you as well.
These are all good questions. But in terms of the future of farming, it's all things look, do you think all things look to be pointed in this direction, and that, even though it's the early stages now, that we're going to have maybe a clear-cut path? What is your sort of prognostication about that?
Good question. It is a Wild West show right now. I will admit that. I do think this is going to be, well, kind of like what the organic market is. We're going to see something like this evolve over time. Hopefully, we get to a clear cut method that this goes. It could even come from what I've been hearing out there. How is, trying to think of how it is. It may become a specialized market for the purchase of, let's say, corn. Some jet fuel may be produced from corn that was grown in a carbon neutral acre, so they can say this jet fuel was produced carbon neutral. Think of it like another market we could be looking at, like organic corn or non-GMO corn. It could be a carbon neutral corn we could be looking at in the future as well.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing all these points with us, and we look forward to talking to you again as these things develop. And feel free to reach out at any time, Scott.
Sure will. Thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you.